In the previous episode, after Hayley's death, her daughter's blood remained in her body, causing her to slowly turn into a hybrid. Klaus, heartbroken by the loss of his daughter, shut himself off emotionally, but neither of them knows that an even bigger conspiracy is unfolding. The dilapidated wooden cabin was filled with corpses. This was Spain in the year 1702. Klaus and Elijah were shocked by the scene. Elijah complained that such actions would undoubtedly attract their father's attention. The two of them called out loudly for Cole, who not only showed no shame but even invited his brothers to join in the fun. Klaus pointed out that if their father found them, he would suffer a terrible fate. Cole, however, says he doesn't care, that it's not him his father wants to kill, and offers to leave the brothers. Elijah, however, insisted that the family must stay together. Klaus attempted to seal Cole with a dagger, and Cole swore he would make Klaus pay for it. Klaus plunged the dagger into Cole's heart. Time shifted to New Orleans in 1821. Elijah had successfully guided young Marcel to fall in love with music and reading, and Marcel even idolized Elijah. Klaus, on the other hand, was consumed with jealousy. He complained that life here was too dull, all while smiling and lifting the dagger that had sealed Cole. Outside in the yard, corpses were once again piled high. The awakened Cole was feasting heartily and smugly declared that he hadn't forgiven Klaus. Cole, without the permission of his brothers, fed his blood to young Marcel. He compelled humans to perform Shakespearean plays for them, but this time, the fictional killings in the play were turned into real ones. Elijah and Klaus were furious with Cole's actions, and Cole was sealed once again. Elijah, not wanting Klaus to feel jealous or think that he was taking Marcel away from him, pretended to be indifferent toward Marcel, even going so far as to insult him to his face. Marcel was deeply hurt, yet this allowed Klaus to naturally draw closer to Marcel. Time fast forwards to the present. Elijah found Marcel and discovered that he was secretly turning humans into vampires. As he watched Marcel speak confidently, Elijah felt a mix of emotions, both sentimental and proud. Marcel quickly noticed Elijah's presence and invited him to join his ranks, but Elijah said that he had another purpose for coming.
Find me the white oak stake and I'll let this little social experiment continue.
Davina was flipping through her spellbook, trying to break the connection between Elijah, Josh, and Klaus to prevent them from dying along with Klaus if Mikael succeeded in killing him. Mikael offered his help, but Davina didn't trust him. Davina received a message from Cole inviting her for coffee, and she happily went to meet him. Cole, however, secretly went to check out her attic. Finding nothing, Cole reported back to his mother and Finn. Esther suggested that Cole step up his game and invite Davina to dinner. In the midst of their conversation, a group of werewolves appeared in front of the three of them. Esther remarked that they were all there for the moonlight rings.
The witches have been working day and night. Soon we will have enough rings for an army.
Marcel found Davina, and after not seeing each other for a long time, they hugged tightly. Marcel asked Davina how she had been, and Davina said she had just been stood up by a boy. Marcel asked Davina to help find the white oak stake, which infuriated Davina. Marcel told Davina that if Klaus died, he would die too, but Davina said she wouldn't help him. Elijah appeared in front of Davina and pointed out that they all just wanted to protect their families and friends. Elijah's presence infuriates Davina even more. She said she only wanted the brothers to experience a taste of living in constant fear. Then she turned and left. Marcel complained that Elijah had spoken out of turn, but Elijah astutely noted that if Davina knew the white oak stake was a threat to Marcel yet remained unmoved, it could only mean that the white oak stake was in Davina's possession. Mikael, trapped in the attic, held the white oak stake but had no way to use it. He tried once more to persuade Davina to free him. Davina received another text from Cole. They met as planned and had a delightful conversation. Cole revealed that he was a warlock and expressed his admiration and respect for Davina. In the middle of their conversation, Davina received a call from Marcel. Marcel told Davina that she was not safe, and that everyone looking for the white oak stake would come after her. He asked where she was and said that he and Elijah would come over to talk with her. Davina had no idea that Finn was now in front of Cole, urging him to quickly find the answers their mother needed. Davina hung up the phone and returned to the restaurant, only to be told that the place was being cleared out. As they were about to leave, they were blocked by a group of werewolves. Davina raised her hand and chanted a spell, causing the werewolf in front of her to clutch his head in pain and drop to his knees. In an instant, a dozen werewolves surrounded them. One werewolf pushed Davina to the ground, while another threw Cole over the bar. The werewolves closed in on Davina, baring their fangs. Davina twisted her bracelet and recited a spell, summoning Mikael from the attic. Just as the werewolf was about to sink his teeth into Davina's neck, Mikael appeared in time to hurl the werewolf away. Cole, hiding behind the bar, looked on in shock at his father. Mikael went crazy slaughtering werewolves, but Davina was grabbed by a werewolf, and in the struggle, her bracelet fell to the ground. Davina lost control over Mikael, and in an instant, Mikael switched sides, grabbing Davina and preparing to bite her. Elijah burst in and shoved his father away, his face a mask of shock as he stared at the very much alive Mikael standing before him. The next second, father and son were locked in a fierce battle. Mikael showed no mercy, pulling out the white oak stake with the intent to kill Elijah. Marcel scooped up Davina, preparing to leave, but Davina said that if she could get her bracelet back, she could control Mikael. Marcel retrieved the bracelet and tossed it to Davina. Seeing this, Mikael immediately turned and charged at Davina.
Stop.
Unwillingly, Mikael set down the white oak stake and turned to leave. Elijah didn't recognize Cole, who had been hiding on the sidelines watching the commotion, and let him leave the bar. Cole, knowing that the attack was orchestrated by his mother and brother, angrily declared that he would never be their accomplice, but Esther gave him no choice. She had plenty of ways to make her youngest son obey. Blood began to flow from Cole's nose, and he had no choice but to submit. He kept the fact that Mikael had been resurrected a secret. Esther asked Cole if he had seen Davina's secret weapon. Cole, however, claimed that he had been knocked unconscious and hadn't seen anything. Klaus was busy counseling Hayley, who was struggling with an identity crisis in her new form. Having lost her daughter and left her pack, Hayley had become irritable and aggressive, much like Klaus in his past. Klaus could only guide Hayley to temporarily set aside her longing for her daughter and focus on the plight of her pack. They quickly found Hayley's pack members, who were struggling to survive under Oliver's leadership after Jackson mysteriously disappeared. Hayley stepped forward, offering to lead them temporarily, but Oliver retorted that she wasn't even a werewolf anymore and had no right to be their leader. Klaus stepped out and knocked Oliver to the ground, reminding the werewolves that Hayley was not only strong and compassionate, but she also had the backing of the original's brothers. Seeing that Hayley had already taken control of the situation, Klaus announced that he was going to stir up some trouble with the witches and left the bayou alone. The werewolves who had defected surrounded Klaus, not wanting to harm those weaklings seeking refuge under the witches. Klaus loudly declared that he wanted to speak directly with the witches. The young witch Cassie called out Klaus's full name and then slowly walked out. Cassie had prepared citrus tea, but Klaus remembered that this tea had once been his mother's favorite. Cassie had an intimate knowledge of the origins of vampires, believing that killing them was the only way to restore the balance of nature. She also understood the hidden loneliness buried deep within Klaus. All of this made Klaus suspicious of the true identity of the young witch before him. He initially thought it was his mother's spirit communicating through Cassie, but he finally confirmed his suspicion. Klaus returns home worried and tells Elijah that his mother, who has been dead for thousands of years, is now in Cassie's body. But Elijah isn't shocked by the news. Instead, he says he has some big news to share with him too.
What could possibly be more important than the return of our mother?
Our father.
Having both parents alive didn't seem to bode well for the original's brothers. Klaus pointed out that they now had only one problem to consider.
Which of our parents do we kill first?
But before Elijah and Klaus could take any action, an invitation from their mother arrived at the house. A dining table appeared out of thin air, laden with exquisite food, but the dish in the center began to move eerily. Klaus lifts the lid and two birds flutter their wings and disappear. He picked up the note from the dish and opened it, revealing a dinner invitation from Esther. Their mother's letter made the brothers tense. Elijah points out that Esther is a master of possession, that killing her won't help, that she can possess another person. They needed a witch to break their mother's magical protections. Finn follows his mother's instructions and finds Oliver in a bar. He just squeezes his fingers and Oliver gets a green headache and is in excruciating pain. This was Finn's way of intimidating the werewolves. However, since he and his mother needed the werewolves to serve their cause, Finn offered Oliver a moonlight ring to win him over, but Oliver was a double agent planted in the pack by Hayley. He immediately informed Hayley that Esther had an accomplice witch. Klaus dismissed it as just another one of his mother's allies. Hayley couldn't understand how a woman who had given birth to 6 children could be so cruel to her own offspring. This prompted Klaus to tell the story of their family. Their mother had given birth to 7 children. The eldest daughter had died before Klaus was born, and their youngest brother, Henrik, was killed by the village's werewolves. The werewolf pack that killed Henrik belonged to their mother's lover, who was also Klaus's biological father. Mikael, in turn, killed Klaus's birth father. Their mother lost both her lover and her child in one night. so she used magic to turn the remaining children, only to regret turning them into bloodthirsty demons. The complex emotions and experiences left Hayley shaking her head. Elijah found Marcel and told him he needed the help of a witch, but Marcel said that since it was discovered that Davina resurrected Mikael, she had gone into hiding. Elijah pointed to the moonlight ring on the hand of a newly turned vampire girl, implying that Marcel had more than just Davina as a witch ally. Marcel had no choice but to call on Gia, instructing her to take Elijah to meet a witch. They found a dark witch named Lenore. Elijah asked Lenore how to break the possession spell so they could accurately identify their mother the next time she inhabited a body.
So, Brandon,
Lenore said she needed an item belonging to the cursed person and a live python. Elijah had just left when Finn entered Lenore's shop. Finn kidnapped Lenore and ordered Oliver to interrogate her, forcing her to reveal Elijah's plans. News of Lenore's capture quickly reached Hayley. They decided to split up. Hayley would go to rescue Lenore and assist her in completing the spell. Klaus and Elijah would stay behind to attend the evening's dinner. Klaus handed Hayley a necklace that their mother had enchanted. It was a gift Esther had given him, something he had once treasured deeply. It was the only thing his mother had ever given him alone. Esther had once cherished this necklace and wanted Klaus to wear it at all times, but now Klaus had to use his mother's former love to prevent her from harming their family again. After 1,000 years apart, their mother came to visit her two sons, but Klaus and Elijah were far from happy about it. In the midst of their conversation, a stranger appeared before the brothers. He hadn't yet introduced himself, but Klaus quickly recognized him.
It's been a long time. Finn.
Meanwhile, Hayley found Oliver and told him she was going to take Lenore away. All Oliver needed to do was pretend that he had been attacked by the witch. To make the act convincing, Hayley had no choice but to give Oliver a beating. The original's family dinner officially began. Klaus looked at the two empty seats and expressed his confusion. It was then that Finn revealed that Cole, like himself, had returned to the living world by inhabiting a witch's body. He urged Klaus and Elijah to accept their mother's transformation, saying they only needed to abandon their current bodies. Klaus couldn't resist mocking him, calling Finn nothing more than a sycophant who blindly obeyed their mother. Finn grew angry as well, still bitter about Klaus sealing him away for centuries. He also couldn't understand why Elijah tirelessly helped Klaus hurt the rest of their siblings. Elijah, however, said that their brother had always been their mother's most loyal ally. Esther arrived late, and Finn hurried to greet her, but Klaus and Elijah were filled with hostility toward their mother. Esther reminded them not to forget the love and care she had shown the brothers over the years. She had once fought against Mikael for Klaus's safety. This statement only served to remind Klaus of the time he had to fight Mikael to protect the necklace his mother had given him. Strangely, when Mikael took the necklace from him, Klaus defeated his father for the first time and reclaimed the necklace. Snapping out of his memory, Klaus realized that his mother had deceived him. The necklace wasn't given out of love but to seal away the werewolf bloodline within him. Furious at this belated revelation, he accused his mother of turning him into the very weakling Mikael despised, subjecting him to years of Mikael's abuse. Klaus blamed Esther for all the misery he had endured throughout his life. On another day, Hayley successfully rescued Lenore. Lenore calmly prepared to cast her spell. Hayley asked Lenore how the spell would work, and Lenore explained that every time Esther was reborn, a special mark would appear on the back of her hand, allowing them to identify whose body she had possessed. Lenore's spell gradually began to take effect. Esther began to feel unwell, and then she suddenly collapsed in Elijah's arms. Their mother had appeared suddenly and then just as quickly disappeared, leaving Klaus and Elijah puzzled. Elijah tried to get Finn to reveal their mother's plot, but Finn cast a spell, slamming Elijah against the wall. Klaus immediately rushed forward as well, but he was still no match for Finn's magic. Lenore's spell was complete, but Hayley noticed a black mark on the back of her hand. She quickly realized that the person in front of her was no longer Lenore but Esther, who had possessed her body. Hayley was so frightened that she didn't dare move. Elijah's call came through, and Esther motioned for Hayley to answer it. Hayley quickly gave her location. Esther wouldn't let Hayley say more and forcibly ended the call, saying she only wanted to use Hayley to lure Klaus and Elijah over. The original's brothers rushed toward Hayley's location. Esther continued to tempt Hayley, saying that she could undo her hybrid nature, restore her pure werewolf lineage, and even allow her to have more children. Klaus and Elijah arrived in haste, but Esther trapped them, preventing them from taking another step forward. Esther once again claimed that everything she had done was for redemption. She had already redeemed Finn and Cole and was offering Hayley a new choice. Klaus declared that he would never accept his mother's so-called kindness. Esther, however, said she never intended to give the brothers a choice. She would do whatever it took to make them undergo the transformation. With that, Esther departed the scene, shielded by a flock of birds. Josh has his first online relationship, but the next thing he knows the other guy is throwing a vampire through the window. Aiden appeared with his werewolf squad in tow, swaggering in under the witch's orders to stir up trouble for the vampires. Josh was so surprised his jaw nearly hit the floor. Aiden signaled his men to violently bite a vampire. This was just the witch's first warning. After delivering their message, Aiden and the werewolves left with an air of arrogance, but that arrogance was short-lived. Finn said that to deal with vampires, they needed to use overwhelming numbers. He gathered all the teenagers from the werewolf pack, declaring that tonight was a blood moon night, and the children would indulge in slaughtering humans to activate their werewolf bloodline. Finn ordered Aiden and Oliver to lead the kids into the killing, pushing them to transform from children into warriors as soon as possible. Aiden was unwilling to let the pack's teenagers become the witch's killing machines, but Finn didn't give him any chance to question or choose, and left with the werewolf teenagers in tow. Elijah was teaching newly turned vampires essential combat techniques. Gia loves music, so Elijah instructs Gia to fight to the beat of the music. Gia's form improved, her punches becoming more precise, and she successfully forced Elijah back against the wall.
Very nice.
Gia hesitated. Elijah said that if she couldn't kill, everything would be meaningless, then placed Gia's hand on his chest, encouraging her to take that first step. Gia ruthlessly slides her hand into Elijah's chest. Elijah gasped loudly in pain, the atmosphere growing eerie, even slightly intimate. Hayley appeared at just the right moment, startling them into pulling apart. Hayley said she wanted to talk to Elijah, and Aiden soon appeared before them as well.
Please. I need your help.
Unsuspecting teenagers to form a werewolf army. Aiden's brother was among them. This took Josh by surprise. Elijah and Marcel decided to help. They would distract and deal with the witches, while Aiden and Oliver would be responsible for escorting the teenagers to safety. Oliver mentioned that the witches had grown suspicious of him and that he would likely die at their hands. Elijah, however, suggested that it was time for Oliver to pay for his mistakes. As night fell, Aiden led the teenagers through the crowd. Gia pretended to be drunk and deliberately provoked a man, with Marcel stepping in to assist by snapping the man's neck. After succeeding, they quickly fled. Aiden took the opportunity to direct the werewolves to chase after them. Unaware of the true situation, the werewolves immediately split up and scattered in pursuit. Oliver then led the teenagers away quickly. Hayley guided the group. They escaped to a bar, where Josh opened a secret passage. The teenagers darted into the tunnel to make a quick escape, with Hayley and Josh close behind. Josh led the kids through the tunnel, then followed Gia's directions to a warehouse. Marcel was already there, waiting. The children piled into the car one by one, ready to be taken to the werewolf settlement at the bayou, where another group of werewolves would protect them. Aiden thanked everyone.
We're all fighting for the same thing, you know.
Oliver hurriedly found Elijah, and the next second, they were surrounded by werewolves. Oliver said that the kids weren't there, but the enemy responded that their target wasn't the werewolf children at all, it was Elijah. The atmosphere instantly grew tense, with Elijah and Oliver bracing themselves for a fight. They soon dispatched all the werewolves. Suddenly, Elijah was struck by a sharp, unbearable pain in his head. Finn appeared from behind and, with one swift move, sent Oliver flying. Elijah seized the moment to rush forward and grab Finn by the throat, but Esther drives a stake into Elijah's heart from behind, and she controls it to expand inside Elijah's chest, finally knocking him to the ground.